What is up, everybody? Good to see y'all. Got another day of crazy news, especially with the Epstein files. Um, Gotta quiet my echo. There we go. And bring up the chat. Yeah, so we got some of the names unredacted, about 6 of them, I guess. And also Trump is in there like a million times, literally. There's also been grooming allegations now against Erika Kirk, and I mean it looks pretty rough for her, really. And it was like a 15-year-old girl or something like that, and it was, around the same time that she was accused of having that thing going on in Romania. So, something going on there. Take a look at that in a little bit. First, though, let's see. I want to play this video from one of the members of the House of Representatives that was able to take a look at the unredacted files, and she looks really shaken by this. You gotta see this, because the way that she describes what she has seen, and she doesn't say exactly what she's seen, but you'll see what I mean.
I just got back to the Capitol after spending the morning at the Department of Justice reading the Epstein files, and it's a lot to process. There's a lot of truly dark, disgusting, and disturbing material in those files. And to understand the depths of depravity, I just can't even, there aren't words to describe what are in those files.
And she's saying that now after having already had been exposed to the files that we have seen for the past, couple weeks. She definitely seems very shook.
But it's very clear that the United States government has failed to hold perpetrators accountable for decades, in this case, with the original sin of failing to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein in 2006, when the FBI and the Department of Justice had the opportunity to, which allowed him to continue to abuse women across his properties and across the world. And it's so dark. It's so dark. A few things I want to say is that it's very clear that Department of Justice is covering up names of potential perpetrators and powerful people. As you're aware, Thomas Massie unmasked Sultan last night, and I can tell you that there is all kinds of disturbing correspondence between Jeffrey Epstein and various world leaders, including leaders from the Kremlin, involving conversations about women. There's a lot of redactions involving co-conspirators, many of which the FBI identified as assistants and people who worked for Jeffrey Epstein. Many of them were women. They were schedulers, assistants, but they were often the people that the survivors interacted with when they were brought in to be abused by Epstein and Maxwell, and were paid by these individuals and scheduled, etc. I spent a fair amount of my time this morning looking at
I did notice the lack of attention to Israel between all of them, and they're trying to. I did find that very interesting as well.
files on Zorro Ranch. There's some dark stuff there, and I think it's really.
And she talked of dark stuff at Zorro Ranch. Now, that feels like it's got to go beyond the kind of stuff that we were already aware of.
Important that our colleagues, State House Representatives Mariana Anaya and Andrea Romero, are conducting this Truth Commission, because the FBI never did a full forensic investigation of the ranch property, and it's clear that crimes were committed there, and people knew about it. There were victims who went to the FBI, who went to law enforcement, and those crimes were never followed up on, and the ranch was sold from the estate before a full investigation could be done. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, what went down there, why it was not fully investigated, why people were not held accountable. And frankly, as a New Mexican, to anyone who was hurt there, my heart goes out to you. And the miscarriage of justice in this case is just stunning, appalling, disgusting. And I'm sorry. I mean, just what happened to people in all of these places is just horrific. I also spent some of my time at DOJ looking at the lists of individuals who the FBI had received and investigated tips of sexual assault and violence on. Those are public documents. They're in the public domain. Donald Trump is on them, absolutely, 100%. There were multiple credible tips and corroborated tips provided to the FBI by survivors. And yeah, there's just a lot here. So more to be said about it, but
Yeah, so she definitely seems shook. I can't imagine what they have gotten access to at this point, and to still think that that isn't even half of the total files, and a lot of what they're looking at is still redacted, and you know that that's going to be the worst of it. So like, what the hell is even going on? Ro Khanna did what everybody was hoping for, because I know, remember yesterday Massey was like, well, we'll wait for the DOJ, and everybody was like, nah, you put them 6 names out now. Luckily one of them ended up doing that.
Yesterday, Congressman Massey and I went to the Department of Justice to read the unredacted Epstein files. We spent about 2 hours there, and we learned that 70 to 80% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the
Oh yeah, there's got to be way more than 6, and they are definitely not rising to the occasion as usual.
DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massey and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake, and now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikaladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by.
I noticed that very few of them are allies of the U.S. or live in the U.S. Like Les Wexner is like one of the only ones in the U.S., I think.
The FBI. Now, my question is, why did it take Thomas Massey and me going to the Justice Department to get these 6 men's identities to become public? And if we found 6 men that they were hiding in 2 hours, imagine how many men they are covering up for in those 3 million files. But the story gets worse. The reality is that Donald Trump's FBI scrubbed these files in March, long before Thomas Massey and I passed the Epstein Transparency Act.
thank you, Mr.
Now, my bill is clear. The Epstein Transparency Act requires them to unredact those FBI files. And yet the Justice Department said to me and to Congressman Massey, we just uploaded whatever the FBI sent us. And guess what? The FBI sent scrubbed files. That means the survivor's statement to the FBI, naming rich and powerful men who went to Epstein's island, who went to his ranch, who went to his home and raped and abused underage girls or saw underage girls being paraded, they're all hidden. They're all redacted. It's a little bit of a farce. They're inviting all the members of Congress to go to see the Department of Justice, quote unquote, unredacted files, but they've got all redacted files from the FBI. And it's not the fault of the Justice Department attorneys. They were just told upload things that Donald Trump's FBI had already scrubbed. It's a blatant violation of the Epstein Transparency Act, but it also asks a fundamental question. Who are they protecting?
That's another good point. They throw Wexner out there because he's basically like a vegetable at this point, I think, from what I've heard, that he's totally immovable.
Why are they protecting these rich and powerful men, people I call part of the Epstein class? Why are we in a country where there is no elite accountability for people who do the most heinous things? You have in England the king now calling for an investigation and possible prosecution of his own brother. You have in Norway the princess who no longer has support to be the queen. And yet in the United States of America, we have someone in the cabinet, Howard Lutnick, who is all over these Epstein files, who allegedly had business with Epstein after he was convicted of pedophilia, and he still is in the cabinet.
Lutnick got questioned today, though, and he admitted to being on the island and having lunch after all of his denials and stuff. I got video of that, too.
We need to ask ourselves, are we in America going to have elite accountability? Are we going to call on rich and powerful people who broke the law or cavorted with a pedophile, a convicted pedophile? Are we going to call them to account? Are we going to have prosecutions for billionaires who went to this island and either raped underage girls or saw underage girls being raped and didn't say anything? Are we going to have investigations? I'll tell you what this is about. It's not just about the 1,200 survivors. It's about 2 tiers of justice in America. It's about people who can accumulate wealth and power and don't have to care about the rest of America. They have destroyed so much of this country. Income inequality is at a 60-year high. Workers.
I keep on calling him Nutlick, too. Like, I did that ironically at first, but now it's really hard to actually call him Lutnick. Like, if I'm trying to, like, I really have to put effort into it. So what's this? So apparently, yeah, investigation files are still being hidden, and they're now admitting that there are co-conspirators. So it's like Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and all those people that went up there and said that there are no co-conspirators, there's no evidence of anything. They totally,
Why did the Epstein
their lies are totally exposed now. And in any other situation, they would probably, have to resign. But here, I think Trump is afraid to have anybody resign at this point because, from what I understand, whoever replaced the person that resigned would have to be approved. And it was very easy for him to get everybody approved when he first built the cabinet because there was all this, like, hopium after the election and stuff for them that this was going to be some like new right wing era or something. And that the whole country agreed on that. And a lot of people just went along with it. The Democrats went along with it, and especially the Republicans went along with it. But now we're in a situation where even Trump might even have trouble with a Republican majority trying to get a loyalist installed. So he probably wants to keep as many loyalists on as possible. This is that one of the interactions with Lutnick while he was on the while he was at the hearing today.
Files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012.
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall, 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person. Okay.
Secretary Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again.
Yeah, if for those of you who might not have seen it, he was interviewed and he gave this real elaborate story about how he saw this massage table in Epstein's house and he was there with his wife and they were just there so disgusted and they said they'd never talk to him again. And this is years later now. Not only has he ate lunch with him on his island as he admits to here, but he's also in numerous business dealings with Epstein, and really even multiple Republicans now have said that he should resign.
Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife all together.
There's something sketch with the nannies too, because there's a lot of conversation about like them talking about like exchanging nannies or something in the emails and like recommending nannies, which you guess that rich people would probably do. However, people like traced it to like they didn't have kids that would be of a certain age that you would need a nanny at that point. And the other thing is there are also emails where they talk about fake wives. And like, do you still need a fake wife? And I forget who that was asked to. So a lot of these people use their wives as their cover in a lot of these circumstances. And, they may be completely organized marriages.
We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Very, very defensive there, buddy.
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said, there's not an indication that you yourself engaged in any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein. It's the fact that you believe that you misled the country and the Congress based on your earlier statements, suggesting that you cut off all contact when in fact you had not. When you visited the private island, did you see anything inappropriate during that visit?
the only thing I saw with my wife and my children and the other couple and their children was staff who worked for Mr. Epstein on that island.
Staff who worked for Mr. Epstein. I guess who could that include? Who could fall under that umbrella?
And you realize that this visit took place after he'd been convicted, right? I mean, you made a very big point of saying that you sensed that this was a bad person in 2005. And then, of course, in 2008, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution of a minor. And yet you went and had this trip and other interactions. Did you have a dinner in Epstein's New York City home in 2011?
No.
So the information that suggests that there was a dinner with Woody Allen and Woody Allen's spouse at the Epstein residence, there's nothing to that. Is that right?
I actually don't know what you're referring to. There was, look, I looked through the millions of documents for my name, just like everybody else. And
everybody else wasn't looking for their name, bro. That's not a normal thing. We weren't looking to find our names, dude.
What I found was there was a document that says that I had a meeting with him in May, I think, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Not dinner or otherwise, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
All right. There's also a reference to the fact that Epstein had expressed an interest in meeting your nanny. Do you know whether Jeffrey Epstein ever met with your nanny?
Ooh, yeah, because that was the thing in the email. That's weird.
No, I saw that. I had no idea what that was about. It had nothing to do with me.
No
as far as I
interaction
know.
with him on that.
No, as far as I know, no.
Would you, Mr. Secretary, be willing to ensure that the file is complete to share with this committee and the Congress your own records, any records you have that relate to Jeffrey Epstein?
I will surely talk about that. I hadn't thought about that. I have nothing to hide. Absolutely nothing.
He did not sound very excited about that. Did not sound very excited to be and I'm sure he's going to try to dodge that like like they've been trying to dodge this situation, you know? So this is the guy that's been his task, I guess, has been looking through the files for Trump, because that has seemed to be what we got. Subscribe for free. Okay, hold on. Look at that. See, if other paywalls just collected data like that, it would be a little bit better. So let's see. Raskin told Axios in an interview Tuesday that when he searched President Trump's name in the unredacted Epstein files the previous day, it came up more than 1 million times. At least one of the files Raskin found appears to contradict what Trump has publicly claimed about his association with Jeffrey Epstein, according to the House Judiciary Committee ranking member. Oh, yeah, no, that email is kind of public. It's all good. That document is a 2009 email exchange between Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, in which Epstein recounted his lawyer's account of a phone call with Trump, as Raskin previously told reporters. Trump is paraphrased and quoted as saying, "No, Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and no, we never asked him to leave." So this is what in which Epstein recounted his lawyer's account. Okay. So Trump has denied all wrongdoing. The former Palm Beach police chief testified to the FBI in 2019 that following Epstein's arrest in Mar-a-Lago, or Epstein's arrest in early 2000s, Trump claimed that he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Trump reportedly also told the then police chief that everyone has known he's been doing this, and Maxwell is evil, and to focus on her. Now, the MAGA cult is trying to spin this in like a good way. This was why Mike Johnson back months ago said that Trump was like an informant for the feds or something like that, and then ended up walking it back. It doesn't help them for a variety of different reasons. First of all, Trump said this to the police chief after the investigation had already started. So like, when people are already being questioned. So, this is a classic criminal move. When you are in crime and somebody else is in crime and the cops come sniffing around, you want them looking at the other guy, so it's like, I remember back in the day, when we were throwing raves, a lot of promoters would call the cops on their competition, especially if it was like a mainstream club, and regardless, they had drug things going on of where you were at. But if you were like at a smaller club, they would call you if you were killing their night or something like that, or even taking any people away from their crowd. And I bet there are situations where there are drug dealers or mafias or whatever that have their connections at the cops, and after certain crimes happen, whether it is a shooting or something like that, the cops will go, we need to crack down on organized crime in that area. And they'll put a task force on it or something. And the mafia will know some of the people involved, and they will go, why don't you focus on my friend or my competition instead, or whoever. So I don't think that really absolves him. And then the other thing is that it massively contradicts what he's trying to position Ghislaine Maxwell as now. So like, he's trying to eventually prop her up as somebody credible, so he can use her testimony to kind of absolve himself, which nobody will buy into, but that seems to be what his plan is, and then give her clemency or a pardon or something like that. And it's just, that is going to, just catching up on chat. Yeah, I think that it's kind of going to backfire for him, because he's saying here she's evil, she's the operator, and now he can't claim that he's pardoning her because she's been unjustly prosecuted, and she didn't have anything to do with the operation. He may try anyway, because they have really just blatantly lied in people's faces at this point. So, following the allegations of improper redactions in more than 3 million files, the Justice Department has begun giving members of Congress access to the redacted files. So that's just review. So yeah, that is quite interesting. And then there's this too. Whoops, wrong. That was Jmail flights. So look at this. This is one of the congressmen who were able to get in and look at the unredacted files. He said, I saw the unredacted version of this email, and there is no reason it should be redacted from the public. Unless, of course, you are trying to protect your master, Donald Trump. And this is, what's it say? Spoke to Alan, somebody, Trump's attorney, tempted. I'm gonna have to. This is a congressperson, and he didn't put the file number and just put some phone screenshot. This is an atrocity. This is why you people are like have easily allowed a brain rotten fascist regime to take over the government, because you have no clue what you're doing. 20 phone conference with Trump and Brad in list of depot. Following was discussed. Oh, and then the following that was discussed is entirely blacked out. Wow. So that's going to be interesting. Are they going to be able to get into that or what? And it's kind of funny, because I was seeing a lot of these like conservative counts that have definitely been pushing Trump for years, like not even buying it, and they're like having fights amongst themselves. Like this one person says, Trump has been completely and totally cleared. He was the whistleblower. If you're anti-Trump, you're pro-pedo. And then this guy, conservative 1AZ, yeah, he's saying these people are fucking nuts. And then he's arguing with the other. So like there is like a big they're having a hard time with they're having a hard time with the situation. This was a big one too that I think I might have just saw it as I signed off the other night. But newly released documents show FBI agent removed the hard drive from the jail's camera system, wiping all footage from the night that Jeffrey Epstein died. No video, no record. So yeah, this is a FBI document from probably the workers. Yeah, it was an interview from the workers at the prison. So they said they advised the FBI agent that the one who pulled the DVR was also advised that he knew that by replacing both hard drives, the system would be wiped, and that he had advised personnel of that. So they wiped the hard drives for the time, and that was like an intentional thing that happened. Is just crazy. And the media is also kind of becoming quite complicit. Ashley Banfield, News Nation host, and yeah, this is from a Luigi account, was reportedly slandered and tried to prejudice Luigi with her reporting while sneering at anyone who supports him, is in the Epstein files, lusting after Epstein, who at the time was already. And is your Jeffrey friend single? That's hilarious. And then the Atlantic as well. So the Atlantic posted this: the Epstein files reveal plenty of powerful people tolerated or participated in disgusting and shameful and even criminal behavior, but they also bolster the case that there was never a grand conspiracy, right? And then Alan McLeod posts, this is a picture of the Atlantic's owner with Ghislaine Maxwell. And I'm pretty sure this got hit with a community note, if I remember correctly. No, they must have had it removed. It did get hit with a community note. Saw this video that a TikToker posted about Pam Bondi. I haven't really looked into this that much. I just saved it because I saw people talking about it, so we'll check it out.
What are you doing with Keith Frankel? I have a couple questions for you, Pam. How much were the acting lessons? Do the Epstein victims that you cried with know that you're friends with Keith Frankel? Why was Keith Frankel and Jeffrey Epstein talking about body boxes on February 10th, 2010? You've read the files, so I'm sure you can tell us. If Jeffrey Epstein was such a monster, Pam, how come Keith went to his house so many times? One thing that was mentioned in the Epstein files is children being trafficked out of Ukraine. Keith Frankel and his family run a children's home that takes children out of Ukraine. You need to cut the shit, Pam.
What?
You need to cut the shit.
That's pretty crazy. What is it? Body boxes? We're going to look that up in Gmail real quick. Because what's up with that? Body boxes. The body boxes. Keith Frankel. Don't waste your time with the box ingredients concepts. Box designs and girls would be verse. That's what Epstein says. List of product suggestion, marketing suggestion, leaves graphics out of it. Keith Frankel, read down. Scoo's not enough. Let's say Keith Frankel. Yeah, the Ukraine. Yeah, that whole thing. These people that are running these children things are sketch as hell. Like, you know, I'm sure it isn't like every child organization, but those places are sus. Yeah, Romania is where Erika had a children's home, and we just are hearing like in the past couple days that she was acting very, very strange with young teenage girls after she was Miss Arizona. The body boxes. This is so weird. Is this like another jerky rabbit hole, or what is this? I don't know. Coming with Stefan for you tomorrow at 2:15. I mean, there is not much context on the body boxes, I will say, but that is the subject of the email, you know? Yeah, yeah, they are. It might be that they are. Let's see. That does make sense about the supply chain. I mean, I don't know what a body box is. I'm maybe it's some weird see, it's so weird to think that they talk about code in some things and then other things they're like so blatantly obvious. Like talking like Fed speaking on the phone. This, I believe, is the list of the co-conspirators that are being Yeah. So they told us that this didn't exist. They're labeled as co-conspirators, and it has the FBI letterhead. So, you know, and I believe that these were the named the named conspirators in the 2006 case that had immunity. So that's a little bit crazy. Also, let's see. They had a pretty interesting day on in Washington, because not only was Howard Lutnick being questioned on the Epstein files, but there was also a bunch of questions for ICE there too, and about the expanding surveillance state. Here, this this guy, let's see, he's the director of ICE. He claims here that there is no database. And now, after this, I'll show you that he's kind of probably lying.
So, sir.
One of your officers in Maine said to one of the individuals protesting, "We're going to put your face in a little database." What does that mean? Do you have a little database
No, sir.
of Americans?
No, sir, we don't.
Then what do you think your ICE agent was doing to this individual when he said those statements?
I can't speak for that individual, sir, but I can assure you there is no database that's tracking United States citizens. There is no database for protesters, sir.
One of your
So yeah, then we got this here though. Reuters today put out that ICE has been tracking the names of protesters in an internal database for several months. Let me look up that story. Just here it is. ICE is cracking down on people who follow them in their cars. And this basically goes into the details behind this and what's been happening there, and how they have been collecting their names. Not only that, they have been doing some really creepy shit, because, you know, they've following these ICE cars to see where they're going and what they're doing. And then the ICE cars drive by their houses, and then they'll stop right in front of the person's house who is following them, as a way of being like, I know where you live. And that shit is crazy. They're doing all sorts of crazy shit like that. And it is pretty clear that they do have a database. I saw this video as well. This was from Jason Bassler of Police the Police and the Free Thought Project. He posted this earlier.
Yeah. Let me tell you this right now, man. I'm a fucking ICE agent, and I got several of my fucking officers in here. This is your one and only fucking warning.
I was just on the phone.
No, you're not. So here's the deal. This is your one and only warning. I catch you here again, I'm yanking you out of that fucking car, because you're taking pictures with your little GoPro and everything there. All right? Anything happens to our vehicles or anybody in here.
It's not on.
Yeah. If anything happens to our vehicles or anything that's in here, I'm coming straight for you.
Okay.
I will yank you out of that fucking car. I will fucking put charges on you, and I'll put you in the fucking domestic terrorist fucking app. And we got photos of your vehicle.
That's fine.
So the way he said that, the domestic terrorist app, you got something. They got something. They got something. You know, I don't know what the tech is, but that guy is lying for sure. Here's a couple of other he also denied that people are like, all these guys, they just get up there and they deny. That's all that they do.
Young people asking me, what do I have to carry with me so I won't be deported? Is, Mr. Lyons, carrying a passport, is that enough so they won't be detained or deported in my district?
Sir, an American citizen shouldn't carry or shouldn't feel the need to carry.
Let me tell you what some of your ICE agents have done. They pulled over a gentleman in a pickup truck, showed his passport, they threw it to the side, detained him. What do we have to do to show that we're American citizens?
Sir, no
What do we
American
have-
citizen falls under Title VIII. No American citizen will be arrested for being American citizen.
But you just said to my colleague that nobody has been fired because of violations of the law for disciplinary actions, yet this is happening in my district. Mr. Lyons, we're a very boring district. We work hard, mind our own business. ICE in our streets now. People are terrorized. American citizens, number of cases of Americans being detained, being taken in, some being held for 5 days. Sir.
Yeah, and the guy just doesn't say shit. And in a lot of these cases, it's just like these guys are just getting yelled at, and just sitting there and taking it basically. Let's see. I also saw Rogan keeps on going back and forth between because he's still friends with all of these people. Like he's in group chats with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and Donald Trump and shit. But you know, the Epstein situation was a big part of the development of his worldview, even before he went right wing. So I feel like the two wolves inside of him are having some trouble. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, he's mega compromised. But I think this is kind of funny too, because I think his guest is RFK's wife, if I'm not mistaken, and she's trying to, like, you know, disregard the situation, and he's like not having it. Let's take a look.
If that guy was not into that, if he was not into high school girls,
Right.
like if he was just into grown women who are sex workers and he ran the same operation exactly the same way, it could probably go on to this day.
Yeah.
And if everybody kept their fucking mouth shut, and if all these guys, you
Well,
know,
yeah. I mean, look at
yeah.
look at some people that are in the.
There was nothing going on. So.
Oh, FBI concluded Jeffrey Epstein wasn't running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men. File show.
So there you go.
Oh, there you go. Who says that? What's that source?
Yeah, it's going around. I just found the place that was showing the headline. It was going around the internet today.
Oh, today?
Yeah, am I wrong about that, or is that a different tweet that I saw? Who is this?
At AP, it's the AP reporting it. Yeah.
Today. Oh, I thought that was from 2005.
This is like the FBI.
I was like,
today.
that's
That's the gaslighting shit I've ever heard in my life.
Whoa.
What do they think is going on? Just a bunch of fun, bunch of guys hanging out,
That is
being fellas, having cocktails, talking about
They're
science.
still looking into it, but they don't have any evidence.
Oh, look into it. Maybe see.
She is RFK's wife. I just looked it up, and he has admitted to being on the on Epstein's plane many times. When they asked him about it, he's like, "Yeah, I used to be friends with Harvey Weinstein too."
Get Eddie Bravo on the case.
I'm looking into it. That is crazy.
Look into it. It's so crazy. It's but there's probably a lot of that that's gone on forever.
Yeah.
And it's also probably a way that they can secure business deals and make sure that people do things they want to do. They have a little something over them. They do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that.
For sure.
Yeah.
This is what yeah. I mean, that's what Epstein was all about, was manipulating people and you know, holding it over their head and getting them to do something.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
It certainly seems like that. Certainly seems like that was a big part of it.
I mean, is it possible that people didn't know what was going on?
Maybe initially.
Yeah.
You know, if someone got lured in like they tried to lure me in and they didn't do a Google search. And also
Yeah.
they're meeting with this eccentric billionaire, supposedly.
Yeah, I don't know what she sees in RFK, and I also don't know what that like 25-year-old journalist saw either. That was kind of something else. Speaking of inappropriate age gaps, this was trending. Erika Kirk faces grooming accusations from 2013 texts. So this was 13 years ago. The claims target Erika Kirk, who became of course, this is like an AI summary of what people are saying, so it's going to be like, it could be butchered, but we're going to actually look through some of the stuff. Let's see. Screenshots of 2013, 2014 texts and tweets depict compliments on the teen's looks, terms like sweetheart, and sexual innuendos between Kirk, then Erika France, how do you pronounce that, and Michigan teen Jill Falcone. While a 2014 tweet from Falcone confirms some contact, the full messages remain unverified. No court records back the cited minor charge, and neither Kirk nor TPS USA has responded. Yeah, there were some people saying that she caught charges for it, but I don't think that that was accurate. But the texts are definitely accurate, and they're still up from like 2014, the posts between them. Although there are some posts that she clearly deleted. So let's take a look at. So this is something that the then 14-year-old or 15-year-old girl posted in what, 2014. So she says, this has to be the most heartfelt compliment I've ever gotten. Best compliments yet. And she says, your eyes, your lips, your skin, you're absolutely beautiful. And this is like a 25-year-old woman at this point. And she's sharing this like excitedly, you know. And I don't know who has gone back and traced this. Oops. But here's some of the screenshots of some of the things that some of the people collected. We can actually go through her page too, and they're still there, you know. Okay, so, and the other thing is this young girl like clearly had some kind of like obsession with her too, but at the same time, like as an adult, like she should have been like, yeah, you know, it gave some guidance and like, you know, do something productive with people or your own age, you know what I mean? Like, and here is where some of the posts are being deleted. Still waiting for that lunch date. And then it said the post was deleted. And then but it looks like she's confirming it here. And then she says, I just want to curl up in a ball and cry because of how perfect Erika is. And then she says, you too, love. And then she says, why did Erika send me this? And it says, this Valentine's Day, I'm going to touch your butt. And this was 2014. And it's still there on her. Now this is weird too. It says, let me call you. Hold on, sweetheart. Give me a sex. Wow. Sex too, but not from you. And then she says, I don't bat for the other team just yet. And it's like, this is around the same time that those Romanian charity accusations were, you know, popping. And she's saying, what are you trying to say? Yeah, definitely. And then apparently she was texting the girl no new friends when she was with a boy because she was jealous or something like that. Is like, this shit is creepy. And you know what was going on there? That there's something wrong with that. And then now she is in this very, very fascist organization that tries to point the figure at, like, you know, gay people, trans people, calling them groomers and shit like that. Meanwhile, look at them. Like, every accusation is a confession, as they say. So it's going to be interesting to see how she responds to that. You know, she's probably going to try to just brush it aside, but you know, it's wild. The things that have kind of come out since his death, I really feel like, you know, that there could be something more to that shit because, there was a lot of money at stake, and I don't know. I mean, it is possible, just the randomness of what happened the random way. I don't know, but it is all very, very strange. That this is unfolded the way it is. And like I said, so many of these people that claim to be super holy and religious and all this, um, you got to watch out for them sometimes. Yeah, I doubt that he's dead at this point too, because like we just looked at with they deleted the cameras. We know that they wiped the cameras intentionally now. That's confirmed in these files. Not only that, but they stacked a bunch of boxes up on a stretcher and put a sheet over it and wheeled it out in front of the media to make them think that it was his body. So like there's and what? There's no noose. There was no noose whatsoever. They can't find one. There were tons of blankets in the room that they thought might have been a noose mixed up in some of those. They might have wrapped them things together or something like that. Um, the map. Yeah, that is just nuts. Apparently there's more stuff coming out that points to his intelligence connections as well. Some like let's take a look at this real quick. Epstein filed FOIA requests with the CIA in which he sought documents that would show he had an open affiliation with the CIA between 1999 and 2011, and NSA for documents relating or referring to himself. Epstein didn't receive any records. He got GLOMARs. What are GLOMARs? GLOMARs are what is a FOIA GLOMAR? Case in point, the term GLOMAR is often used to describe a FOIA response where the agency neither confirms nor denies the existence of responsive records. Knowing where this term comes from can help understand why okay. So he tried to obtain records on himself, probably as a test, and received nothing. But he received a we can neither confirm nor deny. The Epstein files released last week include hundreds of pages of documents that lay bare the behind-the-scenes chaos at the FBI early last year over the review of the files and questions on what should be redacted related to the victims and public figures. I find it bizarre and hilarious that they released their own internal communications where they were panicking about what to redact. Like, that's what we're looking at right here. The thing that's highlighted is I have talked about this specific email before about how they need clear and specific guidance to redact photographs and that depict former U.S. presidents, Secretary of State, etc. It's just, I guess that is one point for transparency that they released their own internal panic. It's kind of hilarious. This is wild though. Epstein had access to a skiff, which is oh no, wait, that's the wrong one. I think that is the wrong one. Let's go to this one. Let's see. People think this, oh yeah, so this Epstein had routine access to a skiff, and even described his house as being similar to a skiff. I suggest my house, 9 East 71, similar to a skiff. You choose the time. So we'll look into what it is in a minute. Let's see. And then we'll look at that theory that he has there. And I don't think the theories are mutually exclusive either. So, a skiff is a sensitive, compartmented information facility in United States military, national security, defense, and intelligence parlance. It's an enclosed area with a building that is used to process sensitive, compartmented information, types of classified information. So, this, remember when what's his name? Peter Hegseth got in trouble for texting the war plans over Signal. Well, yeah, the stuff that came after, the hearing that came after, when they were questioning him, they were saying that he was supposed to use one of these facilities instead, and instead he was using Signal. So the theory that Adam Cochran here has is that it doesn't necessarily mean that Epstein was CIA, but it could mean that his house was used as Trump's skiff at instead of Mar-a-Lago for some reason. I don't know. I feel like he's definitely CIA. We have tons of other evidence for that. And this would point to that, but it could be that they were using that. But I don't know. I find that that's one of the only counterpoints that I saw, and I don't think that it's very strong. So there's this map thing. Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, interesting. Where should I'm going to try to fast forward to this a little bit. Let's see what we got.
If there's anything that I'm less confident in, I will tell you, I will point, then he will be set up for extradition.
All right, I'll put it
The
right.
translation I have here, I am very confident in. If there's anything that I'm less confident in, I will tell you, I will point out things that if I'm not sure what it says or if I'm not certain.
So this is this was found in the files. This was apparently notes that he wrote while he was locked up, like, you know, possibly communicating with his lawyers in these types of signals and signs that are being described here.
That's what it says. But if I typed it out here, I'm overwhelmingly sure that this is correct. Now, I'm going to explain what everything means. And once I'm done with that, then we're going to go through and I'll let you make your own determinations if you think that I got it right. So I'm going to start with what was most obvious to me, the thing that drew my eye first, where it says red notice, and I put equals EXT. Now, if you don't know what a red notice is, that's an alert that Interpol puts out if there is a fugitive on the loose. If there's someone that is internationally wanted, a red notice notifies agencies that if this person is found, then you extradite them back to the country where they are being looked for. So that's why it says red notice equals EXT. So if there's a red notice out for him, then he will be set up for extradition. That was my first clue that if we're looking at all of this in context, that he was planning on getting out of the country. That was his goal by writing all of this down. Now, from the red notice, there is an arrow pointing back up to this main circle right here. So that means that if he's MIA in the US, in other words, if he's missing, so this would be shorthand basically saying he's missing. For anybody that's watching this that isn't from the US.
Yeah, this is big brain shit to figure this out, man. This is wild.
I'm going to try my best to explain various acronyms the way that we would do them here. So MIA would be a way to say that he's missing. So if he's MIA in the US, then a red notice would occur. Then a red notice would be set out by Interpol. That's what that arrow means. But if we're to look at this circle, right, MIA US, let's look at some of the various branches of this. So visas would suggest that he's going to be planning on going out of the country. He would need to fake his name. It would have to be fake visas, but he would need visas. Something I guess he was considering is that he wrote no rights. So it could be depending on the country he goes to, his rights might be different. Interestingly, he wrote tourism here. Now, if he was planning on leaving the country, whether or not he would be posing as a tourist or whether or not he would be going to places that have tourism, there's some consideration about tourism because I'm pretty certain that's what that says. It either says tourism.
It's called mind mapping. It's a thinking and reasoning technique that engineers and folks use. Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen that before.
Tourism or tourist, his handwriting is so bad. You'll see in a second where the confusion is there. Now, up here it says EXT tax. It could be EST tax, but I think that what this is estate tax. So, in other words, if he is to die, how much money goes to estate tax, or that he's considering the estate tax right here. Another branch has banks, so obviously something that he's going to have to consider if he's going to have access to money. Now, here's one that I am somewhat less confident in, is that there's a name written here with dollar signs next to it. I put a question mark because I don't know what letter that is, but it does look like BLCH, like NIL or something like that. But this is very clearly a name and clearly associated with money. And below that, you can see it says guards. It says guards clear as day. That is 100% what this says. So whether or not that means that he needs guards, whether or not that has to do with prison guards, that's unclear, but that is very clearly stating guards right underneath this name and the dollar signs. So if we're to look at the top portion of
Every day that goes by, I really, really lean towards more that he's alive.
This, if he is MIA, if he is missing, a red notice will occur. He needs to keep all of these other things in mind. These are all things that he is thinking about. Now, if you look in the top,
The funny thing is, though, is if he is alive, that would be the trippiest thing right now because, like, the whole world, like, hates this guy. And, you know, there are maybe a couple people who know, you know what I mean, that he's alive. And if anybody knows, it's probably Trump and the people in the administration because they were in charge. They were in charge of that prison. Bob Barr was in charge of that prison, or Bill Barr, right? Which one is it? I forget which one. I always get them confused because the one guy was like the old politician. But anyway, they were in charge. So what I'm trying to say is that imagine half of the people on the Trump administration know that Jeffrey Epstein's alive right now. Bill Barr. Okay, cool. Yeah. So they if he is alive, then half of the administration knows it. They could have killed him. That's the other realistic possibility. The only thing that I don't believe happened is that he killed himself. Either they killed him or probably with Nicholas Taglioni, or he's chilling somewhere, probably doing horrible things.
Up left here, you see a number of letters, M and then R with a line to T with a line to M. And then above that, it looks like either a C or an L and then a dot and then a T. I didn't label those, but I think that that's what that says. So the question is, are these different tiers within the prison where he is? Because he's in L tier, M tier is below him. Are these people's names that he's connecting from one to the other? We don't have enough information for that to be clear, but I just want to point this out. So if later on, when we get more information, if somehow that makes more sense, we're going to circle back and we'll address that. Now, underneath red notice, he wrote K equals exclamation point, exclamation point. My interpretation of that is he considering whether or not, if he's dead, will there not be a red notice? Or if he gets away with him being dead, is there no red notice then? Because there are 3 exclamation points. I typed that out exactly as it's written. To the right of that are the initials LSR. And I say initials because I assume that's what those are. I couldn't find anybody in the Epstein files with those initials, or at least typing them out by those initials. I'm not sure who he might know that has those initials. When I show it to you in a minute, maybe you interpret the letters differently because his handwriting is so bad. But I feel with a high degree of confidence that says LSR, and I don't know what that means, but it's very clear. Now, interestingly, underneath guards over here on the right, he wrote government, and I believe this says clear. So government clear. That's my best read on the second word. 100% certain it says government. I'd say 70% certain that it says clear. My interpretation, he's looking for a government where he would be clear to go. Now, interestingly, if we go back to the left, underneath LS.
Government where he would be clear to go. Israel, probably. Russia, probably. Wherever that Sultan lived, probably. It was UAE, right? Yeah. or it was a Qatar. It was Qatar or UAE. I can't remember.
Sorry, it says Muslim. Now, obviously, he's Jewish, so the question would be, why is he writing Muslim? I interpret that as where he might be ending, where he's thinking about going, where he might end up. Right below it, it says AS. You could consider that Arabic states potentially, or Arab states, because
So if he's alive, he's walking around like, a Muslim majority country as a practicing Muslim man now.
if we go a little bit lower,
I mean, I don't know. I'm just, riffing here, but.
And I know this is confusing. This is hard to follow. There's so much, but I'm trying to get the flow of how he thinks about this. Because down below it, we see Q-SA. Now, there's a lot of different ways you could interpret that. Q could be a question. I think of this, if it's below Muslim and AS, it could be Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or Qatar to Saudi Arabia. That's the way I interpret those letters, because he is a very well-traveled person. He knows people pretty much everywhere. So these are not out of the question as far as what these potential initials could mean. Now, to the right of that, he wrote Nigeria with an exclamation point and underlined that. So now that is a country that does extradite to the U.S. So if we're to assume that Qatar and Saudi Arabia are identified, obviously there's Nigeria. These all seem like possibilities, places that he could consider going. So to summarize what we've got so far, we've got a long way to go. At this point, he's been thinking about if he's missing in the U.S. and it's found out that he's missing, then a red notice would be applied. He would need to have all of these other things in place. If we're to go back to the left a little bit, where it says red notice, if you look below that, it says the name Mara, question mark. Now, unfortunately, I, for the life of me, cannot figure out what it says below that. It says enlist, maybe. It's so unclear. That looks like an E, an N. It's impossible to read that next letter. It looks like an S and a T. So my best guess would be that it says enlist, but that's with a very low degree of certainty. Now, I assume Mara is a name and not code for something else like Mar-a-Lago. I'm sure some people are going to go there, but that would be strange because there's two R's, and that's not really how Mar-a-Lago is spelled. But he is writing in code to some extent. So keep in mind, Mara may not be as literal as it seems. Maybe it isn't literally somebody's name. Maybe it literally is. But that's one of those things we're going to earmark. And as I continue to analyze other files in later videos, maybe we'll circle back to that. And this, I can't read any of it. It looks like it says LSR again, but it's such a low degree of certainty I didn't type it on there. It's completely illegible. So I have to mark this off as something where I can't truly translate any of that. Now, below that, it clearly says gangsters. And below that, it clearly says extort and kidnap. So we're going from red notice, and below that, it says Mara, something illegible, gangsters, then extort, kidnap. Now, what this line of thought is, I don't know if he's concerned that could happen if he ends up in the wrong country, but there's clearly some train of thought here, starting with Mara and ending with extort, kidnap. Now, if we're to go all the way to the left, to me, this looks like the name Nicole. Now, that, once again, that's not with a high degree of certainty, but I can't think of anything else that would fit there. Who Nicole is anybody's guess. There are probably people named Nicole in his orbit. There are probably multiple people named Nicole in his orbit, so I'm not going to guess it as a specific person, or I'm not going to guess who it is. Sure, it's a specific person to him, but I'm not going to speculate as to which Nicole this might be. Above that, my interpretation of this picture right here is that I believe this is a little map of the United States. That's what it looks like, just a weird little sketch of the United States and a squiggly thing coming out of it. So to me, that looks like a map. And the lines may just be the bars of being in the prison cell. So there's not as much meaning in that part. Now, below that, it says island and people. Now, he's lived on an island. Whether or not he wants to end up on an island.
So very, very interesting.
This is somewhat less clear, but those are very clearly the words that are written. So I'm not going to try to interpret too much about what.
And I would bet that, like, a lot of this is also, like, there have to be some red herrings in here, too, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some things that are just there to just make it look like there's more going on when there is something specific that,
that means, because it's its own separate idea. But now I want you to focus on the right side again. Now, on the right here, we see it says jet-US prop. Now, what that means is that he's thinking about whether or not the jet that he would be traveling in is U.S. property. Epstein and his associates were obsessed with aircraft registration, jurisdiction, things like that, and that's what jet U.S. prop would be. He's thinking about whether or not the jet he's traveling in is in fact U.S. property, because that does change some things jurisdictionally, as well as whether or not there's seizure and all of these other potential issues that could come up. So the fact that he's thinking about that is important. What else is important is that jet U.S. prop was written in a different color. Most of these were written in blue ink. Jet U.S. prop was written.
Yeah, that's the other weird thing, is that there's now a bunch of confusion about which day he died. And I think the actual date was the 10th, but then there was I think some paperwork had it on the 9th.
In black ink. Now, the reason that matters is that means that this was enough of a plan that where he wrote it out and he came back to it. It wasn't just sketched out and thrown away. He came back with additional thoughts later on. Now, below that, you can see this little scribbled box with the word Brad on top. I'm going to scroll up so you can see it without my comments on it. So you see it's a little square with a little building next to it.
Redacting his doodles.
On the left, I interpret this as an airplane. At least I believe that's what it is, or it could be additional buildings. But it very, very clearly has the word Brad written on top. And then below it and to the right of it, you see what I interpret as supposed to
Brad. I think that's the name of the prosecuting lawyer, right?
Be where cars and planes are parked. I think this right here is a little airplane. So when I saw this, I immediately thought it looked like a private airport because this shape and design of the building is unusual. Airports are low and they're large. It's a very distinct look. So I was curious what the closest private airport is. The closest private airport to where he was is Teterboro. It also is one of the busiest. I was curious if he'd ever actually been there. So I typed it in the Epstein files and it showed that it's been mentioned about 7,000 times. So this is definitely one he's familiar with. It does seem to resemble at least this style of airport. I'm not insisting it is this one, but it certainly looks quite a lot like it. So if nothing else, this lends credence to the idea that this building he's drawing is a private airport. He is thinking about getting to a private airport based on everything else he's saying and getting out of there. And the name Brad is associated with that. Who that is that a pilot? Is that somebody who would help him get there? That's unclear, but the name Brad is very, very clearly written on top of that airport. And you may be thinking, well, he's just fantasizing about escaping, and that may be part of it. I think the unusual aspect of that is that he would put a specific name with it. He would write a name on top of the airport.
That's what I think, Brad Edwards as well, yeah.
Now, as far as I know, Brad does not stand for anything. It's not an acronym for anything. I take that in a very literal sense as a name. Now, as you can see right here, a portion is redacted. All we can see is that something was underlined. I would absolutely love to know what this said, because something here is very important because it's underlined many times. But if we're to look to the right of that, it said medical/PT. Now, the way I interpret that, PT typically is shorthand for patient. It very clearly says medical. So the question would be, is that how he's thinking about being transported as a medical patient? Possibly. So if we're to scroll down a little further, we see G/computer PB, some question marks, then VI. Now, immediately when I saw this, I knew what this was referring to. PB is Palm Beach, VI is Virgin Islands. So
it is possible that that first time he was taken in was an escape attempt too.
If we're wondering what has something that he is worried about on it or something he's thinking about, it's the computer in Palm Beach.
Like that first alleged attempt that he allegedly made.
That's the one with the question marks. And just to be clear, so you know that that's actually how he would refer to his computer, I took a snippet from an email from Ghislaine Maxwell. Why do I have no sound in this computer? And it has PB in parentheses next to it because that's referring to the Palm Beach computer. So this is literally how they refer to these computers. Now, as far as the G/ goes, I interpret that, and this is my best guess. I'm trying to tell you what I think is a guess versus what seems more clear. I'm guessing that that somehow is in reference to Ghislaine Maxwell. So as far as where this PB computer is, I would assume that she is in fact the one who has it. So if we start looking at this in total, it becomes very clear that there is a very detailed plan of escaping, and he is actively trying to figure out where he would want to go, how he would get there, and what he would do. Just so you can see for yourself what some of these various words say. I'm going to show you some of the more questionable ones. You can see if you have a different translation. But as we look at this, I put all of the words next to, above, or below my translation so you can see for yourself, see whether or not you think that's actually what it says, or if you have a different interpretation that somehow makes more sense. But I've read a lot of his handwriting. I do feel confident in anything that I actively translated that that's in fact what it says. Now, there is one part that I feel unclear on and I didn't reference, which is this part right here. It looks like it says Healthline or Heathrow or something that starts with HEATH. But it's so hard to read, I don't want to present a potential interpretation because all four of these are right next to each other, and I think they would all be based on getting these right. And this is the one part that feels very uncertain to me. So if you have any thoughts about what this says, the one below it looks like it says press or press T. And then after that, it looks almost like it says 3 hits or shorts or shots. This is just too unclear. So I would love to be able to have a full interpretation of this, but this makes it impossible. But as you look with words like gangsters, it seems very clear that's what it says next to it. Extort, kidnap. It seems very clear that that's what those words are. Having completely abysmal handwriting myself does help me.
It looks like, actually, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Patrick Bateman's Notebook from American Psycho, honestly.
I think understand this a bit more. And as you can see, the name with the $sign, BLECH, could be an L, I suppose, but I would think BLECHNIL or something along that line, or that last L could actually be an S. When we look at all of this together, it seems pretty clear that his goal was to get out of there, and he was thinking about all of the different logistics of doing that. Now we're going to briefly look at 2 more documents. These will be quick, but they do give a little bit more color to what we just looked at. Now, this next document right here, I'm not going to bother reading through all this. I don't think it's of consequence.
It's only got two minutes left on this, so I'll play it out.
But this is basically him complaining about being in prison. But then when we flip it upside down, which is down here, it comes out with something else. This does seem
weird. What scribbles are they redacting? It looks like phone
a
numbers.
bit more
maybe.
relevant. So the top, it says something about data. That's unclear, but we do have the years 2002 to 2005. We have two initials below that, which I would assume are names, but maybe they stand for something else. But once again, they are coded. He does not want this to be obvious what he's talking about. But the more significant part is directly below that. Jail out equals 10. Now, that seems pretty clear. He's talking about getting out of jail. Now, what does the 10 stand for? Is he paying somebody $10 million? Is it 10 o'clock? What is 10? All we know is that he is saying jail out equals 10. And I think that's extremely consequential, particularly given the context of the other page we looked at. Now, below it, some of this is written very clearly, but it's unclear what he's referring to. So he says nothing at all. And then the last word.
That makes sense. Q, Qatar, SA, Saudi Arabia.
Draw, show. I just can't read those middle letters enough to make that make sense. And then below that, no, it looks like it says no sign me, but it definitely says no something me. So this obviously pairs together with the jail out equals 10, but he just writes so strangely, it's impossible to give you full context. And I don't want to make any major assumptions about what this is saying. So now this is the last page, blankets, AVR, and Medi. And then it says watch, exclamation point. Now, this is very interesting because he had an excessive amount of blankets in his prison cell. We know that. That's very well documented. That was acknowledged in the OIG report, actually. So the fact that he had excessive blankets is a fact. AVR, the cameras were not working. So we know for a fact the cameras did not work at that time. And the last one is Medi, which is how people that think he escaped would have done it, would have been through medical. And he says, watch, exclamation point. So what is it that he's watching for? Something to do with the blankets, the AVR, or the Medi. But those are three of the big things that had to be taken care of if he was actually going to pull off something like this. So I think this page, despite the fact it's just a couple of words, could potentially be very consequential. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of what we saw today. I know it's hard to read. I know it's confusing, but there does seem to be some logic to it. There does seem to be some real thought put behind it. And it does seem to be that he was trying to work through the logistics of
Pretty interesting there. Yeah, I this is my first time ever seeing one of his videos. I saw this earlier too. This was crazy. Epstein was advising MBS on how to avoid paying 9/11 families because, of course, like all of the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, or the vast majority of the September 11th hijackers. I began my letter with the greetings of peace as instructed by the Nobel Prophet Muhammad. This is from Jeffrey to Aziz Al-Ahmadi. November 7th will mark 1 year since you and I met and laughed. Many things have changed since, and many have not. You became crown prince, and I remained a friend. The economics of the kingdom have not done as well. At our meeting, I suggested reviewing at actual goals of the kingdom and reaching into sophisticated toolbox to offer solutions. A rethinking of the Aramco transaction was only part of what I believe was needed. Let's see. I recognize that the forces of momentum of aligned personalities, Wall Street, your advisors, and third parties would put up roadblocks to new thinking. Having worldwide shareholders with rights to audit everything and everyone is silly. Sorry for bluntness. You have been treated as if you were only a large company. You are not. You are a sovereign with unique rights. You should amend the laws to protect yourself from JASTA. You are playing into the hands of the Wall Street demons. You need cash. You have resources. Getting the money from third parties should be structured as debt option swaps, all new financial instruments at your disposal. Having shares that fluctuate on a daily basis leads to many bad consequences. You should amend the laws to protect yourself from JASTA. I guess that was the thing that was trying to get them to pay the 9/11 families. I also saw this as well, where Ro Khanna said that one of the major things that were redacted, that had redactions on top of redactions, were the testimonies of the survivors.
You had the chance to take a look at these unredacted files. The FBI may have scrubbed some of these records in March, Todd Blanche did not unredact those like he was supposed to.
This is the whole point. You got right to the essence of the matter. Donald Trump ordered the FBI to scrub these files in March. People have forgotten there was all this reporting. Agents, hundreds of agents are going through these files in March, redacting things. And then they sent them to DOJ, and DOJ did further redactions, but DOJ did not unredact the files they got from the FBI. Massey and my law, Congressman Massey and my law, requires them to unredact the FBI files. We explicitly said that in the Epstein Transparency Act. Now, why is this matter? Why does this matter beyond the legalese? It's because the survivors' statements to the FBI is where they named the rich and powerful men in America who were on the island or raped these girls or covered up. And this is being covered up. It's being protected. And we see how bad it already is, the stuff that's come out just based on Epstein's emails and the things they couldn't hide. It is already possibly going to bring down the British monarchy, the British government, the Norway is a monarchy. And yet they still have the worst stuff hidden.
Well, yeah, so that's where we're at now. We know that there's a massive cover up that's happened, probably like, one of the bigger ones that we know about in recent history anyway. And just because of how deep it goes, how long it goes back, how many world events that this has seemingly affected from what we can read in the emails. It really is quite wild. So I'm definitely curious what's going to come out, because from what I've heard, the restrictions that they are under to try to look at these files are insane. Like, there's only 4 computer terminals. You can only write down like on a legal pad or something like that, and there's kind of, you can't take pictures of anything, and it's just extremely limited their access to the files, and that's obviously intentional. So yeah, I think, yeah, at the beginning of she definitely, that hit me too when I saw that woman from Congress, I forget what her name was. I'll find out in a minute. When she recorded that in her car, I guess right after looking at it and saying, what is going on here? It's just, oh yeah, it's called, her name is Melanie Stansbury. Yeah. So I wonder what she saw and if she's going to be able to talk about that. Yeah, and I'm sure there will be more tomorrow, because I guess they get a little bit every day. And I've seen a lot of posts that have been saying like, the way that they're doing this is completely intentional. Like, they're spreading they're saving the most damning stuff for the end. They're putting out things in confusing ways, and they're trying to drown people in documents. Yeah, thanks for stopping through, for sure. Yeah, and it's just, it's obvious that something's going on. I don't even think we know the half of it from seeing how shook she was. You can't remove your notes from the skiff, weirdly. All the women will be moved more to bring this out. Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. It seems like the tides are kind of turning, but this is definitely a massive cover up, and I don't think there's, you can't put the cat back in the bag at this point. Like, this is not is not going away for them. No matter how hard they try, they say we're getting over it and all this, and it's not happening. Well, yeah, I appreciate you dropping through. Definitely please like and subscribe if you can. I do have a couple books. This is the most recent one, called Paper Squares and Purple Stars. It is a book about my time in the music industry and the rave scene between like 2008 and 2012, before I got into activism and journalism. And I actually have a sequel to that already written, called Echo Chambers and Engagement Farmers: Diaries of a Digital Propagandist, I think. And that was about my time in journalism, and I guess the kind of like um, breakup I had with that movement that was forming in those early years. Um, and, all that, which is, it's pretty much finished. I'm not entirely happy with it, and I need to do some edits and stuff. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for dropping through. And yeah, definitely check out the Discord as well if you want to catch up on the show notes or suggest stories to me. Um, we are hanging out in there, developing a great community. So definitely, you could raveoutlaw.com will lead you to the Amazon link. I self-publish it through Amazon basically. So yeah, raveoutlaw.com, and there's just a buy the book now right in the middle. And also I have, if you go to hive.blog/@JohnVibes, you could read the whole book for free, chapter by chapter, with like actual pictures from the events that I wrote about and stuff. So yeah, I definitely appreciate y'all dropping through and checking that out, and looking forward to seeing you in the Discord and on the next stream. Catch you later. Peace.